I feel like if you've never heard of that before, you're going to be like, really? Can you fly? And if you've heard about it before, you're going to be like, oh, all right.
What about the other one?
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
But he also knew how serious it was. So maybe that's just, he's been planning for this for a long time on how to be sneaky about the book. I don't know. But hearing it from Zed makes it all seem way more real than reading it out of the book ever fucking did.
I imagine there's a certain, would you call it nostalgia? When hearing about this from Zed? Because this is his childhood we're talking about, where he memorized this book. Obviously, he still hasn't memorized, but it was a long time ago. And he probably never really thought that that information was going to be important in his life. Like, all he had to do was pass it off. But now, this is a major part of the game that he's playing.
I think maybe there's a certain sense of nostalgia, and even though as he was growing and they threw the book in the fire, it did all that crazy shit, I'm sure that there was a certain part of his brain that was like, Dad came home with a fairy tale last night, and he's been making me memorize it, and it's not gonna happen. That's just all, like, there's nothing to ever prove that these things exist to him except the book and his necklace up until this point.
Right.
Now he knows other people know of other things in the book, so I could see how it would be like, oh, fuck. All right, well, I guess Dad was right. He asked how Rawl's going to know which box to open, even though he knows the answer. And Zed says putting the boxes in play gives somebody certain knowledge, and he thinks this is how Darkenrahl knows. And Richard realizes that only the keeper of the book and the person putting the boxes in play knows about the book. So this has to be how Darkenrahl knows he exists.
So Richard said that he must either be pretty brave or pretty stupid to put the boxes in play without having all of them. And Zed kind of corrects him by saying, or he's confident, which is a pretty terrifying thought.
Right. And at this point, Zed's temper flares pretty hot because the only reason that Darkenrahl is confident is because the council mishandled the goddamn boxes and the position of Seeker. It wasn't just the position of Seeker. Zed wanted the boxes kept apart and hidden by magic, and the council was like, hey, rich dude, you want one? You can have one too. You can have one too. So they were out there. They weren't even a secret anymore. And people got to this place where they kind of thought they were novelty. They weren't pieces of great magic. They were just some pretty thing to sit up on a shelf.
And this is where Zed kind of outlines what the game plan might be for Richard. We know that they were given out to these kingdoms as trinkets. People hold them in high regard, but they don't necessarily realize what it is they have. But right now, Darken's play is he needs all three boxes to be able to open one. So we don't need to go all the way to Dahara and kill Darkenrahl necessarily. What we need to do is play a good-ass game of keep away, at least until the first day of winter, which is Darkenrahl's deadline.
And to Richard's credit, he realizes that might not be as easy as Zed makes it sound right away either. He's like, keeping it away from Darkenrahl is probably the hard part in all this anyways, not finding it. And I would probably assume finding it would be harder because, like, you have all of the Midlands to look in, but I guess you have a wizard on your tail, so whatever.
And Zed may have some information about who those boxes were given to.
Yeah, Zed's pretty creepy knowledgeable.
Yeah, he knows some shit. Crazy old man. And then Zed kind of comes clean to Richard at this point. He says, look, I'm honest with you. I think this is something Zed prides himself on. He is honest with Richard, but he goes, look, I did lie to you about one thing. It was when he came to Westland. Now, the premise is this. There couldn't be any magic in Westland when the boundary went up. That was the point of putting the boundary up, that there wasn't any magic there. So that means any magic at this point needs to be in the Midlands or in Dahara. And so he put the boundary up and then came to Westland across the boundary, which also implies that the boxes have to be in the Midlands or Dahara, which kind of upsets Richard because he's like, man, we could maybe find one in Westland Maybe this won't be so hard. Yes, it will be.
I think we did know, though, that Zed came after the boundary before this chapter. I don't think that he made it super clear that magic wasn't there and it couldn't be there before he came, and that's part of the reason. But, I mean, in the story that we were told about the history, the great wizard put the boundaries up and then got pissed at the council and then came over. So, we did know that. Richard may not have known that. He may have told Richard his whole life, but like for the last couple chapters, as a reader, we knew. I got a little bit confused when he said that, because I was like, we talked about this already, Zed.
You're absolutely right. You know what? That never clicked until just now when you explained it to me. We totally did know that he came over after the boundary went up.
Yeah. So I think that's a specifically Richard as he was growing up. I told you I'd been here forever and blah, blah, blah. But we, as readers, have known this pretty much this whole time. Maybe not the whole time. Last couple chapters.
Good catch, Jade.
Thank you.
And so at this point, there's all this information that Richard is trying to wrap his head around, and he's obviously having a difficult time with it, as you would. And he goes, whoa, wait a second. You still didn't answer my very important question. And so now I'm going to pose that question to you, Jade. What you drinking tonight?
Tonight, we're drinking No Dignity from Pigeon Hill Brewing Company. It's a hazy IPA, and it has Chunk from The Goonies on it. And he's doing his little dance.
The Truffle Shuffle.
Yeah. This beer is brewed in beautiful Muskegon, Michigan. And it says, who needs dignity when you have a juicy IPA? And it's actually really not that bad of an IPA. I don't really normally like them, but it's okay.
Yeah, no, I really, really like this one too. It's a hazy IPA. I'm not really sure what that means, but on the can it does say enjoy cold and often, and we definitely are.
Pigeon Hill has a couple other beers that I fully endorse. I do really like.
One of Jade's favorites.
Yeah, I can drink a lot of it.
OCP.
Yes. And they also have a salted caramel porter, which is also pretty good. So you'll probably catch me drinking that sometime too.
I've actually had that at the local bar near my work. And sometimes we'll go there with the fellas after work. And it's really fucking good.
Yeah. So they kind of hit the spot on all their different styles of beer so far for me. I'm going to have to make a trip up to Muskegon and check them out.
Triple threat.
Heck yeah. So I need to get another one because mine is empty. So you should go and grab one too. And we'll be back right after this.
And we're back. And I digress. Richard said, hey, you still haven't told me what a seeker is. And Zed tells him that a seeker is a person who only answers to himself, a law unto himself, and who can hold anyone to answer for anything. Basically, you're top dog, dude. You have all the sovereign power.
Yeah, no one's gonna fuck with you anymore. If they try, you know what you can do? Slice their head off with your sword. Or something like that. I mean, yeah. I'm sure there's other stuff to it, but I just assumed at this point that you got a sword, man.
Basically, a seeker seeks answers, and now he is free to quest on his own. Basically, he can ask all the fucking questions he wants, and ain't nobody gonna give him a hard time.
Richard asks if he means that the Seeker is an assassin then. And Zed's like, I mean, it's been that way in the past. And Richard's like, I will never be an assassin. And Zed shrugs his shoulders and he's like, you're what? Seekers are whatever they want to be, dude. Ideally, you're a standard bearer of justice. But I don't pick the Seeker. A true Seeker picks himself. I just name him. You've been a Seeker for years. Basically, this whole time is that being like, dude, I'm trying to lay this out for you. You don't want to kill people? Don't kill people. You're the Seeker.
You're in the seat here. It's all up to you.
Yeah.
You have the sword. You have the moral compass that is going to be followed. You're in charge. You're the guy.
Right. You want to assassinate people? Assassinate people. You don't? Then don't. And it's just funny to me how it takes Richard like a hot minute to grasp this concept. He's like, no, I'm not going to be an assassin. And so it's like, okay, dude, I didn't ask you to be one. I just said they are sometimes.
Nobody's forcing you to do anything. You are the guy who gets to say.
Yeah. And Richard's a smart dude, but he just doesn't get there as fast as you would expect him to in this instance.
I like how he lays it out to him, though. He's like, look, you were the one in the high ven, seeking answers for your father's murder, trying to figure out what that snake vine was all about. You were being a seeker. You didn't even have your sword at that point. You were just doing what you thought you needed to do because you needed to do it. That's all the seeker does.
And then you met Kaylin, and this chick was like, I'm gonna find a wizard who's been missing since before you were born. And you were like, all right, I'm gonna help. She didn't even ask you to help, but you were like, all right, we're gonna find the wizard, dude. And then you found the wizard. You're the seeker, man.
Right. And on top of it, it doesn't even matter if you stumble into the answers. It doesn't matter how you get the answers. It only matters that you get them.
And Richard always does. That's the point of all of this, bud. And Richard is like, okay, what answers, though, are we looking for specifically right now? And Zed says he has a plan, but you've got to figure out how to get us across the boundary first. And this little chunk of this chapter made me laugh because Richard was like, what? You both have gone through it before. Okay, you want my answer? This is it. Zed, you're a wizard. Send us through the boundary.
You do it. Ha! Problem solved.
I audibly laughed when I listened to that today because I was like, all right, here's the answer, Zed. You do it.
I did too, and I think it has something to do with the narrator on Audible who played that part off so well. He's like, all right, Zed, then here it is. Here's my solution. You're a wizard. Figure it out. You can hear the intensity in his voice. It's like, all right, here's the answer you didn't want to hear. It's your problem. That's how I'm going to solve it. I'm just going to crowdsource how to solve it.
You're the great wizard. Do it up. And it makes sense. You made them. You've gone through them a couple times. Kaylin got her ass over here because of wizards. Why would you expect me, a woods guy, to be able to figure it out? This is not my area of expertise.
And what's also a little intriguing here is Zed starts shaking his head right away. And he goes, no. I didn't say we're going through the boundary. You need to figure out a way across the boundary. Big difference. And if I were in Richard's shoes, or what I'm assuming are boots, I'd be like, not a big fucking difference, Zed. Either way, we have to get over there, and that's impossible for somebody like me who just has a sword. Y'all are magic. I'm not. That's the big difference here.
Right. And it's a little bit confusing, too, because he's like, Dark and Raw is waiting for us to go through. We have to go across. And my thing is, I don't really see that much of a difference. Are you saying we have to go over it? Like, is this like a Finding Nemo situation where maybe not everyone will get this reference? Okay. But in Finding Nemo, the little fishies tell them, don't go over the trench, go through the trench. Because if you go over it, that's where all the jellyfish are. And they get, like, real fucked up when they go through there. But it looks scary to go through. So they all go over, and it causes trouble.
So in Richard's mind, it must be like, okay, so are we going to build a catapult? Are we going over this thing? Are we going to try and dig under it?
Right. Do we need to, like, put a tree down? It's confusing wording, because across and through, it's not like a river. Or is it? I don't know. It's confusing. But Richard, much like me, is like, well, bud, I don't fucking know. And Zed's like, dude, you're too quick to criticize yourself. Think of the solution, not the problem. This is one of my favorite quotes from Zed. This is actually something that I say to Nate a lot. When we're having struggles in our day-to-day, I'll be like, you gotta think of the solution, not the problem. And it does not fail to irritate him when I say it, just like it does to Richard here.
No, it irritates the hell out of me, but at the same time, if you actually put it into practice, this is really fucking good advice. Because 9 times out of 10, you're just sitting there thinking about how helpless you are. Much like Richard, I can't figure it out. I don't know how to do this. I'm the worst seeker ever. I can't do it, instead of thinking, okay, but there has to be one way.
Yeah.
And something that